Hi everyone, welcome to the Caregiver and Spoonie podcast. I'm your host, Jordan Banderas. And before we get started, don't forget to subscribe so you don't miss any episodes of the podcast. And once again, thank you for all your emails, your support, your comments, your questions that I've been receiving on email. And let's make this community grow because this community is for everybody. We need to support each other, and that's pretty much why I want to provide support for each other because I've been there and I know how it feels. So let's get into today's episode, shall we? Now, this is a question that one of our listeners sent me, and the listener asked, "Can we be grateful when we are facing a challenge?" Now, from my own story and my own perspective, the answer is yes, you can, but it's not easy because you have to change a lot of things. You have to see things differently. We have to see things differently in order for us to be able to be grateful of what's going on in our lives or whatever we have in our lives. Now, I did some research about it because I wanted to. I wanted to see what research shows in regards to gratitude, and this is what it shows. It says that grateful people tend to be healthy and happy. They exhibit lower levels of stress and depression, cope better with adversity, and sleep better. They tend to be happier and more satisfied with life. Even their partners tend to be more content with their relationships. Now, this is very important because pretty much what research shows that it shows that when you're grateful, you actually are able to cope with stress a little bit easier. And when you're a spoonie, you know that you're going to be stressed because you have medical bills, you have to take care of a family, you have to go to work and be in pain. So there's so much stress. So by being grateful, we're going to be able to actually be able to deal with that a little bit better, which is, I will say, like, from my perspective and from my own story, I can tell you this, like, anything that helps you deal with stress better, I think needs to be done, like if it's being grateful for something, even the smallest thing, even if it's the smallest thing that you can think of that you're grateful for, be grateful for it. Because here's one of the things that I was able to find. It says, life is hard, but we always need to look up and see the bright side. But by being grateful, it can help us feel better. And this is a little bit more research that I found, and I want to share with you, because it says, gratitude has been proven to increase feelings of happiness and decrease depressed feelings. It's hard to feel depressed when you're used to focusing on positivity. People who regularly feel grateful report feeling more hopeful about the future. This hopeful outlook is associated with better physical health. So one of the things that I can tell you from my own story, like, I wasn't grateful at all. I was very ungrateful because growing up, now that I'm being more open with my wife about my childhood. I realized that I wasn't grateful. My mom was leaving me alone sometimes for days. So I never had a parent, literally. I had an absent parent. My own family made me feel like shit. I was good in school, but nobody will say, like, "Oh, you're doing good in school." They will be like, "Oh, you push more or do more." So how can I be grateful of having a life like that? But then I started looking back and I was like, you know what? It could have been worse. Because growing up in Mexico, one of the things I remember is that I thought I wasn't poor. But now that I talk about it with my wife, like, the way that I grew up and how I saw money and everything, oh shit, I was poor. But now I look at how my life is right now, and I'm very grateful how I went from thinking that I wasn't gonna be anything to where I am right now. I have a beautiful wife. I have and especially in that part, I have a beautiful wife when my own family said, oh, nobody's gonna love you because of the way that you are. So I'm grateful that my wife loves me because of the way that I am. And yes, she has changed me a lot, but she has changed me for the better. She has helped me improve, and I'm grateful for that. And like I was gonna say, growing up in Mexico, I saw a lot of people that were dirt poor. And when I said dirt poor, I mean like they had nothing to their name, but yet they were happy. And I remember when one time we went to this house, it was like in the poorest areas of Mexico City, and the kids were so happy. They didn't even have a TV. They just had like wooden toys. I remember this, and they were so happy and grateful for it. And I started thinking back the other day because I was talking to my wife about this, and it was like they were grateful because of what they had. They weren't grateful because of anything else but what they had. Like they had a roof over their heads, they had food on the table, so they were grateful for that, and they understood that. I didn't, because unfortunately I wasn't spoiled, but I will just say it like this: I was damaged already, pretty much. When and I have explained a few of these stories throughout the blog that I put on YouTube, like how I was beat up and I was abused. So obviously when you're abused as a child, you're not gonna be grateful because you want a better life for yourself, but then your family is literally stopping you, you know. So that's pretty much that's why I wasn't grateful. But now I'm looking at this and I say, you know what, I am grateful for what happened, because of what happened, I am the person that I am right now, and I'm able to see how to do better. So I'm grateful for that. I'm also grateful that I was able to have a roof over my head and my entire life. I'm also grateful that I had food in the table no matter what it was. I mean, food is food in this situation. I wasn't, and growing up when you're like, when you're where you can only afford certain things, you have to be grateful for the food that you have. So I was grateful for that. Now I am grateful for that now, and now that I can afford things, I'm like, you know what, I'm also so grateful for this. And that's why I want to help people. Like I give money away to help people, because I know how it feels to be on the other side, where I know like, for example, right now, due to recent events, there's a lot of people that are losing their homes, there's a lot of people that are losing their jobs, there's a lot of people that are losing that are getting so stressed, that are getting sick. But the people that are not, that are actually healthy, they should be grateful for it. Because like, for example, right now I'm healthy. Like I had the heart issue scared not too long ago, but other than that, I'm healthy. So I'm grateful for being healthy. I'm grateful that I'm able to provide for my wife. I'm grateful that I'm able to do so many things for my wife. Not a lot of people can do. You know, like I'm grateful that we're able to afford semi-good healthcare. I mean, unfortunately, healthcare system sucks. We have good doctors, we have bad doctors, and unfortunately, everybody goes through the same thing. So, one of the things that I want to say with this is that we need to be grateful for a lot, pretty much our entire life, because it could be worse. Now, for example, like right now with the pandemic, I'm grateful that I haven't got COVID, because as you can see in the news and everything, apparently it's very bad, and then it also, you can end up in the hospital intubated, and then it can cause other issues. So I'm grateful for that. I'm grateful that my wife, she actually had COVID, and she was able to survive. Like nothing major happened to her. So I'm grateful for that. So it's kind of hard to explain that you have to be grateful for the little things, because you're gonna have different things to be grateful for. But you sometimes when people say like, oh, be grateful for what you have, we don't see it. And I know that feeling, because I don't remember who, but somebody used to tell me like, oh, you have to be grateful for what you have. And I'm like, Yeah, but what I have right now is not the life that I want. That's what I will tell myself. And that's bad. If you tell that to yourself, that's bad, because you're not looking at your, like, for example, if you have a good family that supports you, that you should be grateful for that. Because if your family or your friends or whoever you is supporting you is giving you the support that you need, that's something to be grateful for. Not a lot of people have that. If you're able to go to your fridge, and this is something that I hear all the time, but and it kind of sounds like very cheesy at this point, but it's true. When you open your fridge and you have food in there to get whatever you want, you need to be grateful for that. Like, I wasn't grateful for that. Now I am, because I'm like, holy shit. Growing up, I didn't have these opportunities. I couldn't go to the fridge and grab whatever I want. I had to ask my mom for permission to grab food, because I didn't know if there was gonna be enough for the entire week until we go buy more groceries. So I'm grateful for that, and now I can go buy stuff and put it in my fridge. And when I open the fridge, I'm like, oh, you know what? I still have juice. Not a lot of people have that, especially right now. Like, what happened after the school closures? A lot of people were saying, like, oh, my kid is not gonna have food at home, because they get their meals at the school. So that made me think, is like, oh my gosh, I'm like, I was like, oh shit, I didn't have that problem. I had food in the table every time I was at home. Even though it wasn't like the best food, it's still food is food, you know? Like, if you're able to get food, then it's good. But there's a lot of kids that only eat one time a day, and I'm like, holy shit, that could have been me. But it wasn't me. So I got lucky, and I need to be grateful for that. That's why and I have mentioned this before, I'm going to create at one point an organization that will help people somehow or another. I'm still trying to figure out what exactly is going to do. But when I hear all these stories, like people that are not able to go to the doctor because they can't even afford it, they don't even have health care, or they don't even have insurance, so they can't afford to pay out of pocket. That actually is like, wow, that could have been me and my wife. Can you, like, I imagine myself going, oh, and it's gonna make me cry. I imagine myself not having insurance for my wife. I'm like, I don't think she will be alive without insurance, because all of her treatments are expensive. So there are little things that you need to look at like that. Like, I am giving you just a little bit of an example of why I see that I need to be grateful. There might be things that you might see different in your case, but gratitude, in my experience, gratitude has changed my life, because I see things from a different perspective. Like, from growing up, from seeing other friends that can afford things, you know, seeing people like that ask for help because they can't afford food. I'm like, oh my gosh, I am grateful that I'm able to afford food, and I'm able to help at least a little bit, you know. Like, I'm grateful for my health. I'm grateful for I'm even grateful for my job. I know a lot of people are grateful for that right now, because let's be honest, not a lot of people like their jobs. But we have to be grateful for the little things, because when we're grateful for the little things, when we get the big things that we need to be grateful for, it feels even better. It's like, wow, I've been grateful so much for all these little things, and then I get this. Let's say you're able to afford a house when you were not able to afford a house before. That's something to be grateful for, because now you can see, like, holy shit, I can buy this house. I'm able to live in this house, when before I had to rent, and the rent was so expensive, and I had to deal with noisy neighbors. So things like that, you have to be grateful. And especially when you're a Spoonie, you have to be, oh, I mean, at least in my case, I am grateful, and this is why I tell my wife, you have to be grateful, because it could be worse, you know. And I don't mean it in a disrespectful way, but yes, it could be worse. Like, with fibromyalgia, like, what if it wasn't fibromyalgia? What if it was like MS, and you couldn't even walk. So what if it was something worse? So yeah, fibromyalgia or whatever you're going through can be very debilitating, can be extremely painful, but in the end, remember this, it could be worse though. And that's one of the things that we don't think about. We focus on the illness, but then we don't think that, oh my gosh, it could have been worse, because what if my fibromyalgia, whatever I'm having right now, is so bad that I can't even get out of bed? Like, I have to have people help me all the time, or I have to wear a cane, or I have to wear special clothes, like it could be worse. And one of the things that I learned from reading books about gratitude and everything like that is that when you're grateful for the little things, life, or I mean, in this case, you might be able to change the way that you see things, and you're gonna be able to be more grateful for other things. Like life will give you more things to be grateful for. Like if you're getting better, if you're doing everything that you can to get better, and you're able to get like 1%, 2%, whatever percent better, you should be grateful for that, because not a lot of people might be able to have that opportunity. Like when you're grateful, you have to see it from a completely different perspective, not just about you. You have to see that there are other people suffering as well, maybe the same condition, that are in a worse situation because they can't afford the medication, they can't afford to go to the same doctor that is helping you. So that's something to be grateful for. And one of the things that I've done, and this is something that I recommend, is to write down little things that you're grateful for. Write them down and read them every day, and say them to yourself, like, hey, I'm grateful for food in my fridge. I'm grateful for having a good spouse. I'm grateful for my kids being able to help me. I'm grateful for having a roof over my head. I'm grateful for not being affected as much due to the pandemic. Like, you didn't lose your job, you didn't get furloughed, you didn't get you're not losing money. Like a lot of people are being affected by that, and there's a lot of stress behind that. So I'm gonna leave you with this question. I'm gonna ask you this, because I already mentioned some of the things that I'm grateful for, but I want to ask you this: what are you grateful for? Go ahead, write it down and read it every day, because that's going to help you get over whatever you're going through. It's not going to be like the ultimate solution, but it's going to help you change your mindset as well, which is something that I have talked about. Like, we need to be grateful, we need to be thankful for what we have, and I know it's hard to be grateful when you're suffering, right? When you're in pain every day. But if and this is something that I saw the other day, which is kind of hard. It was kind of hard because there was this. I read this story about a guy that is actually paralyzed from the neck down, and somebody wrote a story for him saying like he wishes he will feel pain, because he doesn't feel anything from the neck down. He can't move. He doesn't feel anything. He had an injury in his spinal cord that left him paralyzed. So that's when I said this to my wife the other day. It's like, you know what? You might be in pain, and she understands that. But it's like the worst thing that could have happened is that if something happens to you and you can't even feel anything or even move, like that. There are things that's where there are things that can happen to us that can be worse than what is actually happening right now. So that's pretty much what I wanted to talk about today. And like I said, I'll leave you with this question: what are you grateful for? Go ahead, write it down, read it every day, read it out loud, put it on your phone, put it anywhere where you can see it, because if you keep reading it every day for weeks, even months, you will see a change in yourself. That's something that I did. That's something that helped me. And once again, thank you for all your support. Thank you for all your emails. Thank you for your feedback. And If you want to share your story, don't forget to send it at the Caregiver and Spoonie at gmail.com. If you want to send me your questions, you can send it at the same email. And don't forget to follow us on Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, and YouTube. And also don't forget to share, like, and subscribe. And I'll leave you like always. Always have a great day.